What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the second video in the Cashing In on Short-Term Rentals, brought to you by my company, the Build Don't Buy Short-Term Rental Masterclass, and then the Strategic Advisory Board. So in the last video, I showed you guys a case study on what is possible with building your own unique short-term rentals compared to buying them. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about market analysis. So this is probably the number one question I get when it comes to, okay, this sounds cool. You're making 40, 50, $60,000 a year per property, but I don't know where to start. I live in a busy metro area and land prices in my area are crazy, or property prices in my area are crazy. And with all the real estate books that I've read, every single real estate book says, when we get to this part, we're like, okay, where should I be investing? They always recommend to start in your backyard. And I recommend doing that with this to a point. So what do I mean by that? Most of our properties are actually in more of a rural setting, 15 to 30 minutes away from your closest downtown. So if you live close to your downtown, we're not talking about developing properties in your downtown. We're talking about developing properties in a more rural setting. And it's like, okay, that sounds cool, but like, where, you might be asking yourself, like, what does that mean? So what I like to tell students that I'm coaching is, you want to think of a city or an area in your city that people like to vacation to. So if you live in a metro city, so I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. What you want to think of a city that people like to take an extended weekend vacation to, that's anywhere between an hour to two away. I wouldn't go over 2 hours when you're first starting, because you're going to be driving a lot to that property or to that market. But that's been the quickest way that I have helped students determine which market to invest in. And I love to give the two extreme examples on each side of the country here in the States. On one side, you have New York City. You don't want to be doing the strategy in New York City, but people will drive anywhere between an hour to 3 hours to upstate New York to spend a weekend there. On the other side of the country, you have San Diego. People will drive, again, an hour and a half, 2 hours to Big Bear Lake to spend a weekend up there. And that's what I mean by investing in areas or building in areas where people like to take extended weekends, vacations to in your market. And there's no list or anything to go off of here, because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these pocket markets here in the United States. And to try to put a list together it just wouldn't be accurate, because this is almost like a local thing where you're going to know your market better than anyone that like, if I'm coaching you and trying to tell you which market to decide on, you're going to know those markets because you live in your area. And that's where I'd recommend starting. Now, if for some reason, which I've never ran into it, but if for some reason there's nothing unique anywhere around you within an hour or two, the second thing I'd recommend doing is looking into and seeing if you're close to any type of national park or national forest in your area. This is another really powerful strategy to implement when you're developing unique short-term rentals, because there's a built-in customer flow, there's a built-in guest flow that's coming in through these national parks and national forests. During COVID, the national parks and the national forests saw record numbers. And now that we're sort of coming out of COVID, or a little bit, or COVID's more part of our lives, I see that trend continuing, because we're going through a current correction, or people are calling it a recession. I'm calling it a correction. And what that means is, people sort of scale back on taking vacations during a correction or a recession, but they don't stop traveling completely. If you look at data during 2008, 2009, people didn't stop traveling. They just scaled back the amount of money that they spent. So instead of taking a week in Europe, like traveling overseas and taking a week in Europe, what they did was they stayed in the States, or stayed close, again, an hour or two away, and they took like a 3 to 5 day vacation that was close to them. And that sort of plays into this strategy about investing in national parks or national forests if there aren't any like unique markets, vacation markets that are close to you. And I want to give you guys a phenomenal example. During 2021, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park saw over 14.1 million visitors come in just in one year. And imagine if you could just put like a unique A-frame or a unique property in one of these markets. It's going to kill it because there's a built-in guest flow again, and then you're going to be competing with hotels, which I've said it over and over again. If you had a decision, like if you had like a party of 4 to 6 people, would you rather rent out 1 to 2 hotel rooms, or would you rent out a private property that someone can stay, like your group can stay at, where you have complete flexibility and people will choose a house over a hotel room all day. And this is a phenomenal example. And so 14.1 million, I believe, were visits. And last time I looked at the number for the Smoky Park, for the Smoky Mountains, it was for overnight stays, it was like over 12 million, like 12 million overnight stays, just in 1 year. So if you can't find these like unique markets to invest in that are an hour or two away from you, another strategy is going to be finding a national park or a national forest that's close to you. It's going to have a built-in guest flow, and then you can plop anywhere between 1 to 20 properties in these markets, and they are going to cash flow phenomenally. As of recording this, we're sort of going through a correction right now. This is being recorded in like late October of 2022. And my properties are doing phenomenal right now. They have a 90+% occupancy, and it's applying what I'm teaching in this video series. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Again, this is video number 2 where we talked about market analysis. The last video we talked about just, I showed you guys a case study of one of my properties and what's possible. And then in the next video, in the third video, what we're going to be talking about is property selection. So we just talked about market analysis, how to choose a market. And next we're going to talk about how to choose a property. So stay tuned for that. Thanks.